it on now, Beck, or just so people could view us right now?
Hello.
What am I going to do with it?
He sells the markets. Vacuum seals. He puts the stickers on, so you don't have to so I'm gonna fix some bodies.
What are we going to do with all the cabinets? Make them a white house, right?
Butcher cuts down, cuts and vacuum seals.
Yes.
He does the labels on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I reckon my water will book it in.
Yeah, money's home
I
too,
said,
so.
we'll book it in for next year.
Okay, see you on.
Right? No, up there over Christmas. No, my oldest daughter, she wasn't, she was overseas, and she got someone else to use her sock, so she didn't work.
Yeah, the Billy in the country, yours, you know.
There's no movie of orders for
Billy goes home.
It's at the May State Council.
Dairy cow country.
Nothing more to keep warm,
We are,
nothing more to keep warm.
5 minutes?
already up on 5:16.
We used to have fires, January. Nine times?
One, two. Everybody ready to go in a minute? Welcome to our only guest, Mr. Amory. Yeah. Better check that one, Beck. He might have to move if he can find a seat.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Noel, you might have to sit up the back. Hello, everybody. It's like we're talking from outer space to ground zero down here on Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you to my councillors, the corporate management team here at council for being here to run through this council meeting, which is a very important process that we need to get through to keep things running here at council and in our rural city of Wangaratta. So thanks for everyone for making the commitment to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, the meeting will be quite quick. We do have a couple of public questions in public question time that we will read out as per our invitation to people to put their questions in writing. So we will do that, and we'll go through our meeting procedure fairly quickly so we don't take too much time and we can social distance a little bit more. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish to begin by acknowledging the Bangarang people as our original inhabitants on whose country we are gathered, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and to all our First Nation people who may be present online or in person. Would we please stand for the opening prayer? Sorry ladies and gentlemen, before we go, under clause 91, which I don't have on my desk, I'm just letting you all know that you may be all live streamed, or you will be live streamed here tonight, so your pictures may be on public display. If you are not comfortable with that, I would extend for you to please walk free from here. Thank you. Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberations so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve, and also to bless the good people of the rural city of Wangaratta. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all present bar Stephen Swart, our Director for Development Services. I've just lost that one. We have Celeste standing in his position. Thank you, Celeste, for being here. There's no leave of absence and no citizenship sharing. I'll like to talk to the confirmation of the minutes. Councillor Clark, please, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a typographical error. The minutes, the recommendation is that the ordinary meeting of council was the 2nd of March. It should have been the 25th of February. And with that alteration, I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Can I have someone to second that? Councillor Fuller. Are there any questions from the gallery? Say no. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Conflict of interests on any of our items coming further down this program. Do we have any? Thank you. Councillor Benton.
Yes, I have a conflict in 14.2 as a family relationship.
Thank you, Councillor Ben. You're happy to stand out of the room to not hear the meeting procedure on that question?
Yep.
Thank you. There is no reception of petitions.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Jamie.
Thank you. So I have a conflict for item 14.3, the High Country Library Shared Service Agreement. My partner is the CEO of Alpine Shire Council, which is the organisation responsible for the hub.
Thank you, Jamie. You're prepared to move out of the room while that's being debated? Don't need to. Maybe I want you to. No. Okay, thank you. But thank you for declaring a conflict because you don't vote. Thank you. I'll go on to reception of petitions, and there is a petition at 9.1. Alan?
So we've received a petition requesting the good path be constructed on Nana Crescent in Wangaratta. So as per our meeting procedure for local law, that will be played on the table and be presented to the future council, response to the future council.
Thank you, Alan. Do we need to pass that as a motion? Not so much. It's just to be represented that we'll do some work on it, come back to a council meeting for a further council meeting. Okay. Can I get a mover to receive that? Councillor Fuller and Councillor Fitzpatrick to second that. If there's no questions from the gallery, all those in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. Presentation of reports. I'll go into item number 11, council reports. Councillor Fitzpatrick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to share a few things that have been happening in this month of March. So on the 8th of March, we celebrated International Women's Day with their theme of Each for Equal. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge my 6 fellow male colleagues. And as the only female councillor, I'm fortunate enough to feel this way, which is equal. So I'd like to thank you and acknowledge you on this. But individually, we are all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day. And we can actively decide to challenge stereotypes, fight bias, broaden perceptions, improve situations, and celebrate women's achievements. So collectively, each one of us can help create a gender-equal community, nation, and world. As I believe, an equal world is an enabled world. And on the 10th of March, I got quite excited as our new 2020 Youth Council was inducted, and they are already trailblazing. So the Youth Council expressed to us they'll be advocating for environment and mental health in our community, and this is what their projects will be based on. Again, congratulations to our young leaders for stepping up, taking action for our community, and advocating for the next generation, which is fantastic to see. But Mr. Mayor, on a more serious note, this month we've faced dramatic changes in our community due to COVID-19. I cannot stress enough the need to be more aware with our social distancing. I cannot stress enough the need to be more cautious of the pressures that this peak virus will put on your health services. And during this time, I'd like to sincerely thank our health professionals. We acknowledge it's going to be a tough journey ahead. But I'd also like to acknowledge the many of the businesses in our municipality struggling, adapting and working their hearts out to remain afloat under these demanding circumstances. We acknowledge this is difficult, but we are strong and I believe together we can get through this, however how long this journey may be. But I am urging you, our community, to acknowledge the effect of infection if social distancing is ignored. So thank you for listening and following and being a caring citizen of our great little city of Wangaratta. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Fuller.
Mr Mayor, I move to have that report tabled in the minutes. If somebody would second it for me.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. No questions from the gallery. All those in favour of that? Thank you. That motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Great words, and thank you, Councillor Fuller, for moving that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go on to officers' reports. Going to item 13, corporate services. Thank you, Sarah. Sean.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So 13.1 is the draft customer experience strategy. Apologies for anyone watching the live stream if you're seeing the back of my head. So this is a strategy that outlines how we want to develop our customer service at the Royal City of Wangaratta and to ultimately be a council that all the community would recommend and would feel they have an excellent experience working with. It works across our channels, how we support our customers through looking at our end-to-end processes, how we develop our staff, and also things like the use of digital tools, which in the current environment we're obviously seeing a great demand and need for. The proposal is that this will go out for community consultation, and we would very much welcome feedback from the community on the draft strategy. I would just mention the strategy has been developed in collaboration with the community, and in the strategy document you can see the various workshops and events that we held to gain feedback from the community as we developed this paper. So the recommendation is that Council endorses the draft customer experience strategy for public exhibition, places it on exhibition up to the close of business Friday the 24th of April, considers any submissions and a final customer experience strategy in the May Council meeting, and then if no submissions requesting changes to the document are received, adopts the draft customer experience without further resolution.
Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Fuller.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to amend the recommendation as it reads. Endorse the customer experience strategy for public exhibition. Place it on public exhibition for 45 days till the close of business May 11, Monday, and consider any submissions and a final customer experience strategy at a following council meeting. If there are no submissions requesting changes to the policy received, that we adopt it as is without further resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Are there any questions from the gallery? No, thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Or Councillor Fuller, I'll take that as a mover and a seconder. Councillor Fitzpatrick, are there any questions from councillors or any statements? No. In that case, all those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you, Sarah. 13.2, the draft procurement policy.
Yes, so this is one of our major council policies, the procurement policy, which we are obliged under legislation to review on an annual basis. So this is to request the recommendation as per the screen that we go out for public consultation again on the recommended changes. There's two key things that we've amended in the council policy or proposing to amend in the policy this year. The first one is around being clear about our obligations around registering any exemptions, breaches to the procurement policy so that those are available to be scrutinised. And then the second is that we encourage all our suppliers to also work with local suppliers when they purchase their own goods, services and materials, which is probably now more important than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions from the gallery? No, thank you. Can I have a mover, please, of that motion? Councillor Clark, and a seconder, Councillor Bussell. Are there any questions from councillors or any statements? No. I'll put the motion to a vote. Are all those in favour? The motion is carried. Community Wellbeing, item 14.1. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. So this report is presented to Council in relation to our Active Wangaratta Club Participation Program. So we have some funding available that is allocated to community groups and clubs who actively go about engaging people who would otherwise have challenges in terms of their engagement with activity in our community. We had a budget allocation of $10,000 that had been set aside to fund the Active Wangaratta program. The recommendation before Council tonight is that 3 projects are funded with a combined cost of $5,969. The 3 organisations are the Wangaratta Little Athletics Club, the Wangaratta Lawn Tennis Club and Gateway Health.
Thank you, Jamie. If there's no questions from the gallery, I will ask for a mover of that motion forward. Councillor Clark and Councillor Benson. The seconder. Are there any questions or any queries or any statements from councillors here present? No. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Jamie, 14.2. Again, can you just note your conflict here, but you can obviously still read the recommendation.
If I can jump in, I'll declare the conflict
sorry.
of interest.
Your conflict, and you'll step out of the room.
Yes, it's one of the nominees was a family relation.
Thank you. Thanks, Jamie. You've lost it, haven't you? Oh, yeah. You've lost the page.
Thank you. So the report is presented tonight in regards to our Sport and Recreation Advisory Committee nominations. Perhaps if we can have the attachment. So there's a recommendation before Council that 3 representatives are appointed to the Sport and Recreation Advisory Committee of a term of 3 years. I'll just get them up on the screen.
Yep, we're just going to see who they are.
Oh, is it? Sorry, it is confidential. My apologies.
Okay, thanks, Jamie, for that one. If there's no questions from the gallery, I'll look for a mover. Councillor Fuller and Councillor Clark. Yep, can you put in that motion on who you're nominating?
Have you got the list, Ken? No. Okay. I'd like to move that the nominations are Cassie Campbell, Melinda Paul, Noel Boyd, Russell Canning and Nicholas Imping. Imping? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Are there any statements from councillors here tonight? No? In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Can we get Councillor Benton? Thanks, Alan. Thank you, Sarah. You're right to do the next one on behalf of Jamie. Thank you. 14.3, and this is the High Country Library Shared Services. Our Director, Jamie, has a conflict of interest, so that she'll hand over the reins to Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you. So High Country Library Shared Service Agreement. So the purpose of this report is to approve a renewal of the existing High Country Library Network Shared Services Agreement where Alpine Shire operates a hub to provide shared library services between themselves, us and some other councils. So the recommendation on the screen is to authorise council to go ahead and enter into the next 3 years of this contract. So the first year of the agreement is estimated to be $350,820, and the total cost impact over 3 years of $1,073,649. And the recommendation is as is on the screen.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the gallery? No, I'll ask someone to move the motion. Councillor Fitzpatrick and Councillor Bustle to second it. Would any councillor like to talk on the motion? No, in that case, sorry, Councillor Bustle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say how important the libraries are. They do cost a lot of money, but for the people that use them, this is just the lifeblood, and it's money well spent to support our library. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bustle. If there's no one else to talk, Councillor Clark, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that this has worked very satisfactorily since we broke off from the High Country Library, and we're now saving about between 150 and 200,000 a year with this new arrangement.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. If there's nothing further, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The vote is carried. Thank you, Alan. Item 15.1, the Mitchell Avenue Children's Garden.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So this report's presented to Council to consider awarding a contract for the construction of the Mitchell Avenue Children's Garden. So this project's been on the books for some time now, since the demolition of the Wangaratta pool and the subsequent master plan in 2018, which identified it as one of the highest priorities for that precinct. So we've gone out for a design and construct tender for this project. It's also worth noting that the state government has contributed just under $200,000 for this project, and the recommendations on the screen.
Thank you. Are there any questions in the gallery? No. Can I have someone to move? Councillor Fuller and Councillor Fitzpatrick to second. Would any councillor like to talk on the motion? Councillor Fuller.
As with the contract from last month and so on, we are finally getting a lot of this action happening out at Mitchell Park Avenue Reserve, and I'm very excited to see it all come to fruition. So it should be good to see later in the year when we're looking for cheer and some new things. This will be there for us to start looking at.
Any other councillor? No? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? The vote is carried. The motion is carried. Thank you. Thanks you, Alan. Driveway strategy. Driveway service. Oh, sorry. Can we get that contractor out?
$550,000.
Thank you, Alan.
So the draft waste services policy, we used to call this the waste charge policy. So it's presented to council to seek endorsement to place the policy on public exhibition. This policy is the one that describes our waste services and how we charge for them, not what we charge. There's been some minor changes and they're listed in the report. A lot of it is just around clarification, and also including things like the organics processing plant into the policy. The recommendations on the screen.
Thank you, Alan. There's no questions from the gallery. I'll put the motion, sorry, can I have a mover for the motion, please? Councillor Clark, Councillor Bent to second that. Would any councillor like to talk on the motion? No. Put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Celeste, thank you. 16.1 Planning Scheme Corrections Amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is presented to Council to request consideration to proceed with the preparation of two separate planning scheme amendments. The first one being proposed is C55, to correct a series of mapping areas and anomalies across the municipality. This amendment request will be made pursuant to Section 20A of the Planning Scheme and Environment Act of 1987 and will not include the regular notification processes. There's the attachment 1 for a complete list of the proposed changes to be included in this amendment. There's approximately 75 slight mapping changes. The second is C83, which makes a series of minor policy and mapping adjustments to the planning scheme to streamline permit application processes. This amendment will include the regular notification processes and see attachment 2 for the complete list of those proposed changes. The recommendation to council is on the screen.
Thank you, Celeste. Questions from the gallery, please. Just state your question from there. Yes, and your name and what your question may be.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. My name is Joe O'Keefe and I live in Wangaratta. In relation to this item, are councillors aware that there's 66 individual rezonings, 4 heritage overlay changes, 4 changes to the public acquisition overlay included within this omnibus amendment, or an amendment to
Yes,
too many?
councillors are aware we have been briefed on it
Yep.
at councillor briefing sessions, so we're all aware. We've had the notes and the bits and pieces in front of us for quite a while.
Thank you. Question 2, are councillors aware that which ones are anomalies, because there's no list here, which ones are anomalies, which ones are claimed to be mapping errors, because that's not clear and it's not listed, which ones are errors in the planning process, and if they are they by council or at the Minister's office, or in fact were they conscious decisions back when the scheme was adopted by the Minister's office as a result of good planning practice? Question 3.
Question 2 I'll answer for you.
Yes.
Is that council's aware of what's on the table at the present. What happened 30 or 40 years ago is of no concern to the councils. We have what we have in front of us, and we're happy to move forward with those. That's what we're considering tonight. Thank you. Continue.
Are councillors aware that if there is a title, a lot, one title, as some of these ones are here, the one in Eldorado is an interesting one, and a couple in Wanganderry, that if it lands in 2 titles, there's options have to be put forward for consideration, like should it all go to one zone, should it all go, say, to the residential zone, or if it's residential farming, should it all go to the farming zone, or should it be another zone? Or in the Eldorado case, if this may have impact on the people in the street in Eldorado, if they regard this piece of public open space, or what they think is public open space, but it's under private title, if this was put out to normal consultation as per council's plan, consult, and the people of Eldorado were to say, we want that, we've always regarded that as a park, we all want to put it in Eldorado, or many people want to put in to have that acquired as a park, but the option that's put forward does not allow consideration of options consistent with good planning practice.
Thank you. And again, I'll reinstate that councillors are aware of what's going on and happy with the amendments in front of them, and they've had their chance to come up and change or to have a talk about those individual issues with our planning team, and at this stage we'll see what the vote does when it comes up to see that they're happy to move ahead with that.
Thank you. And are you aware that this report to council says that it's consistent with the 2017-2021 council plan revision, which is all about consult, and puts these 66 rezonings out. Some are minor, as you say, some are major. I spoke to 3. Are you aware that 3 landowners in the main street, sorry, not in the next street, near Aroma Deli, who had no awareness whatsoever that this was taking place? And that's just one, it's the only one I could get to today, but I intend to go to the other 73 and talk to neighbouring landowners and just see if they're aware and if they're happy to have rezonings go through, which may or may not have some impact on their land. And have councillors spoke to all adjacent landowners with all of the 73 sites?
No, and I'm sure that's not the case, but that's that is for councillors to decide once that comes up here. We believe that there's no great anomalies in there that people would be concerned about, but they can always come and talk to us at the past stage once that happened. We're just fixing up the anomalies that are already been in practice for X amount of years. So thank you, Joe, for your questions. You've had your 4. We only allow 2. Thank you. No other questions from the gallery? Thank you. I'll ask for someone to move the motion. Councillor Benton, someone to second it. Councillor Bussell. Are all, sorry, would any councillor like to talk on this? Councillor Benton.
I would just like to say that it's been overdue, some of these anomalies that have been in the planning scheme, and they have been probably overlooked in the past. And going forward, it will make a lot of issues, specifically in the open space ones that I am aware of, a lot more easier to deal with in relationship to the plans going forward in some of those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. No other queries? I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thanks, Celeste. Next one.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This next report is presented to Council, the draft low density rural residential strategy. The draft strategy has been prepared for the rural city of Wangaratta by Urban Enterprises. The draft strategy and appendices are attached to this report, see attachments 1 and 2, and include a housing demand and supply analysis which estimates supply of land required to meet dwelling demand in the rural living zone and the low density rural residential zone over the next 15 years. The investigation of relevant constraints for land which is or could be used for rural living and low density residential purposes. Analysis of the existing rural living zone and the low density residential zone for long-term sustainability. Recommendations for areas of land to be zoned for rural living and low density residential purposes, and recommendations for the planning scheme policy for the rural living zone and the low density rural zone, so residential zones. I do apologise. We seek Council's endorsement of the draft strategy for the purpose of public consultation. The recommendation is on the screen.
Thank you. Just go to Councillor Curry. Have you got the change, not just that change of recommendation?
To be consistent with what we're trying to be doing, listening to our ratepayers, I do recommend that we look at a 60 days, which would change it from the
30 days.
Yep, from 30 days, but would read from the 27th of March to Friday, 22nd of May, 2020.
Thank you. Questions from the go. Joe, could you stand up again, please?
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. Are councillors aware that Urban Enterprise, who put this together, have no listed scientists, nor agronomists, nor soil scientists on their team, listed? Despite that, they're talking about, especially when you come to Millewa, they're making judgments about the rezoning due to existing good quality agricultural land in a certain area, whereas the mapping, council's mapping that shows much of the land is all the same. So you've got people who are planners or tourism consultants or whatever, or real estate agents by the look of it, making judgments about the quality of the agricultural land on one side of Millewa and not on the other. And I'll restrict myself to just one more of possibly 100 questions I could ask.
Continue.
The second question I'll restrict myself to is council aware that Urban Enterprise, do they know if Urban Enterprise consultants or the people working in that consultancy at the moment have signed anything at all not to benefit for future rezoning and subdivision of the land they're promoting, even though they're promoting in Millewa land of 2,000 square metres that could be sewered, and they're promoting that for unsewered development. So that's a very, very lucrative recommendation for the consultants involved, as you know. Have they signed anything, any disclaimer whatsoever to show that they are disinterested planning consultants?
Thank you for that. Firstly, in answer to the second question there first, mentioned council has strict protocols on what goes on that way in relation to those lands. It's still up to council laws to make the decision on what recommendation goes forward. I'll also point out that this is purely to go out to community consultation for, as Councillor Curry changed to 60 days, and I look forward to getting your reply and submission on that as well, Joe. So thank you. If there's no further questions from the gallery, I'll ask someone to move the motion. Councillor Curry is the mover and Councillor Fitzpatrick will be that seconder. Are there any other statements from the councillors? Councillor Bustle, please. Sorry, Councillor Curry, did you want to say anything further? You're finished? Right, Councillor Bustle.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Times like this, it's very important to have a bit of space between who you live with, and I would invite people to participate in this process, and particularly in Mooreu. There's land in Mooreu that needs to be looked at a lot more closely than what has been looked at now. So I just invite people to get on board in the 60 days and have some input. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Councillor Benton, did you want to say something?
I'd just like to endorse Councillor Bussell's remark, but there is one question I'd like to ask the Planning Department on notice is, was there any reference or by the consultants to the Rural Land Strategy 2015 report? I noticed in all the references that there was no mention to that other than the policies that would come out of that. I know, but there is other communication in that.
I know the rural land strategy was presented to them, or the draft rural land strategy was presented to them and was read, but I will take the question on notice and get back to you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Before I hand over to Councillor Curry, I'd like to state that that during our term as council, and I know my fellow councillors, we're all in the building of Wangaratta and surrounding townships to make them larger. This is another step towards that. We've done our inland strategy here, and we've opened up growth and development areas here in Wangaratta, which we needed to do, and this will serve us in good stead for the future. However, our country areas have fallen behind, and our townships, I believe, are slowly dying. This draft strategy going out that will eventually come back to council and be decided on to move forward is a great move for our outer areas that are part of the rural city of Wangaratta. That's why we are called the rural city of Wangaratta. We need to look after these townships. We have great townships. We have great tourism areas, especially going out towards the King Valley, that are dying because we can't get residents to go and live out there. So this will help improve that over the years, and I look forward to this strategy coming back and great replies from our residents out there and offering up land that hopefully can be subdivided and get more people in these areas and make the rural city of Wangaratta truly a rural city. Thank you. Councillor Curry, would you like to finish unless there's any other councillor? No? Councillor Curry.
Just to be clear, this strategy is to make sure that we're prepared and ready for growth in the future, and we're meeting all of our obligations as needed under the government acts. The one thing that is important is this shapes where the growth will be. And personally, I think I've voiced in many of the forums that I'm not really too comfortable in the direction that this strategy goes. But I will be led by the feedback that comes through by the ratepayers. And I think all of the councillors are very interested to hear exactly what. So I'll reiterate what Harry and Harvey have both said, and that is that we really want to hear from the community and hear very loudly from them. And I think we'd be all interested to actually talk about it, because the direction, I reiterate again, that this will set the direction of where the growth happens and where it doesn't happen. And yeah, it is very important for the long-term plan and for what Wangaratta will look like in the future, whether it be in the regional areas or Wangaratta. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried. There's no special committee reports and advisory committees. Brendan, record of assembly of councillors and minutes of advisory committees.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I suggest we deal with 19.1, just 19.1, which includes a range of assemblies of councillor meetings through February and early March, and advisory committee meetings also through February and March, and the report recommendation is that we receive and note those assembly of councillors and minutes of advisory committees.
Thank you. No questions from the gallery. I'll put the Councillor Fitzpatrick and Councillor Fuller as a mover. Councillor Fitzpatrick, Councillor Fuller a second. Are there any councillors like to speak on this? I mentioned not. Thank you. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried. There's no urgent business. Sorry. Where am I? No, I'm not. Number 20. There's a notice of motion. I'll now hand over to Councillor Bussell, who would like to put forward a notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to note here, notice of motion number 65, Councillor Harvey Benton, should be read as Councillor Harry Bussell. I, Councillor Harry Bussell, hereby give notice of my intention to move at the ordinary meeting of council to be held on 24th of March 2020, the following motion: that council officers work with representatives from DWELP, CFA and the Municipal Fire Management Planning Committee and any other relevant agencies to determine a plan or implement the municipal fire management plans. Recommendations to create safe public egress during emergencies such as fires along the Carboy-Everton Road. This plan should consider appropriate turnaround points for large vehicles and treatment of trees and other vegetation on the roadside. This plan should be presented to council prior to the 2021 fire season, which is around November this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Are there any questions from the gallery on this notice of motion? Imagine not. Councillor Bussell, you happy to move that motion? Can I have a seconder for that motion? Get on the tape. Councillor Benton. Would any other councillor like to talk in relation to this motion?
I'll speak first.
Councillor Bussell.
So just a bit of background here. The Carboy-Everton Road is the main access road in and out of Carboy Valley. It has been identified that safety improvement works, including large vehicle turnaround points and tree treatment, would improve safe access during emergencies. It is acknowledged that a balance between conservation and safety is required. It is also understood that several agencies have some responsibility for legislation covering emergencies and native vegetation removal. It is vitally important this work is carried out and that agencies agree on a sensible plan in time for preparations for the 2020 fire season, 2020-21 fire season. Mr. Mayor, about every 2 weeks there's a tree on the road, on this road, and one fell today, which just missed one of our bridges. Fortunately, not a lot of damage. Given the fact that the fire was in Carboy and was heading north, which would have run right through the valley, and we're now asked to evacuate, and at the time the visibility was anywhere from 50 metres, 100 metres. You would have even struggled to see a tree on the road. And this has been a problem for some number of years, and the community has never been able to get enough traction to their satisfaction. And so, given that this road's been around for around about 120 years, trees live for several hundred years, and I've never seen a plan that's sufficient to manage our lovely trees that we have on the roadsides. And I think that now's probably a good time to start thinking about how we plan our trees and native veg on the side of the roads to make them look better and grow better. So I urge my councillors to support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Any other Councillor Benton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in supporting the motion to have these works carried out, I will inform the council that this is one of our critical access egress road. It's the only road that we have in this classification within the Shire, and being the councillor in the Emergency Committee and the Municipal Fire Management Committee, the plan has now been adopted, and the road and rail train is an attachment to this plan, and it's an obligation by council to make sure that these things are done in line with the planning under the CFA Act. So it's there with the teeth, the authority to be able to make sure that this road comes up to the standard that is agreed by the community and all other concerned. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Fuller?
I'd just definitely like to echo that I support Harry, Councillor Bussell on this. It's been a conversation we've had a number of times, and it's very important we get it right and we get it done this year before we have another incident in the coming fire season.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Councillor Bussell, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You were talking about that you have to go between conservation and safety. What do you put first, conservation or safety?
I think that safety of human life definitely comes first. It's always a balancing act, I acknowledge that. I don't think I'm going to go much more than that.
Thank you. Would you like to close off, Councillor Bustle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the other things that's very important in this road is the fact that it leads to our largest pine plantation in the rural city of Wangaratta, which is, has its issues with all the B-double transports, and where the motion says to find turnarounds, you go for many kilometres and there's no place to turn a truck around safely on the roads. And given the fact that at the moment there's up to about 30 trucks a day carting timber out of there, so it does put it a little bit above many other roads. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bustle. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of Councillor Bustle's motion? The motion is carried. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, given the importance of the commentary on this subject, I'd like to have those comments from both Councillor Benton and myself tabled in the minutes so that we can record them for when we need to advocate greatly to the state authorities for this.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. We'll make those notes and have them make sure that they're minuted. Thank you, Rebecca. I'll do it. There's a mover, a seconder for that. Councillor Fitzpatrick. All those in favour to have that noted? Thank you. The motion is carried. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no urgent business, so I'll go straight to public question time. I have two written questions that I will go before we step into a confidential business item outside. I'll just ask member of the gallery, do you have a question in public question time?
I have no question, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Amory. I'll go on to my first question. And it's a question from a fellow by the name of John Griffiths. John is from Wangaratta, is that correct? Yes. A question is, and it's addressed to Councillor Harry Bustle for him to answer. Could you approach Harry Vic Roads and ask them to reinstate a sign at the start and end of Markwood, in brackets at the Tip Road and Carbor Road? It would make sense for the same as Carbor and Wangaratta, even Mamungi has a sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very, very happy to do that. With comments from Director Clark, it will probably fall to the council, and I'm more than happy to take that forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. The next two questions that I have are from Brian Fox, and they are the questions as follows. Brendan, can I address these questions to you as the CEO? Will the CEO give a public assurance that no action whatsoever will be taken by council to either downgrade or decommission the Swan Street Olympic Pool prior to the new pool at the Bar Reserve being fully operational?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The current council resolution is exactly that. The current council position is that we won't close and decommission the Swan Street pool until the new pool is complete. So unless the council changes that position, that's exactly what we'll be doing.
Thank you. I think that's quite clear. Second question, will council consider suspending paid parking meters as part of its obligation to staff, traders and customers during this virus pandemic? Thank you.
Thanks again for your question, Brian. The answer to that question is we anticipate this pandemic will have a significant financial impact on both the broader community but also on this organisation. As a team, we're currently reviewing what the impact is or is likely to be forecast on this organisation, so I wouldn't be committing to any particular action until we've done that review and understand what the impact's likely to be.
Thank you, Brendan. Well, ladies and gentlemen, item number 23 is confidential business. So councillors will step out of the room for a few minutes until we discuss this item. We'll be back shortly to close our meeting. Thank you. So, can I have a motion, Ken Clark, to motion to move into confidential per seconder? All those in favour? Let's move.
Would have been quicker for me to go out. Don't see any of them, but I think the girls. Slippers, don't we have one? None in here, so none of there. Oh, okay, the council's going there. Did you have them? Yeah.
Back, Noel.
Put your basket, wouldn't have got loaded. Well, it was running. Okay. We couldn't space out well enough, so we walked them back.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just drawing a close to our meeting tonight. Thank you for the unusual circumstances in which we're operating here tonight. Thank you to all the people online who hopefully are watching. We appreciate your time in being part of this council, and to all my fellow councillors and staff here today, thank you very much for this time. I'd just like to thank a few people in relation to what's going on at the moment with our coronavirus, and extending on from Councillor Fitzpatrick's great words. This is a bad time for us all here, and we are all struggling in certain portions. So I want to implore to everyone to please look after your family, look after your neighbours, look after your elderly parents, as I do have. That anything that you can possibly do, please do it for those people. If you need to shop for them, they are our most vulnerable. please look after them. I would love to give a great thanks to our health professionals who I've met with numerous times over the last 2 weeks, and including in that is the hierarchy at North East Health and the emergency services for their dedication to this pandemic that we are suffering. We hope that we come out on the side quickly, on the good side of things, and the loss of life is minimal. I'd like to point out that our most valuable asset in Wangaratta is in our swimming pool. And it's not our roads and it's not our CBD, it's our people. So I implore everyone again to look after our people, be kind to everyone, and just make sure that you're available to help people, especially when you're well and fit. And please abide by the state and the federal guidelines on how this pandemic is progressing and what is required from people in our area. This will help limit the risk and bring down our hospital numbers. And we look forward to seeing you all on the other side in good, healthy conditions. Thank you to everybody. On behalf of the rural city, we look forward to moving forward. Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Can I just ask for your statement to be minuted in the minutes, please? Thank you.
Can do. Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Well, if there's nothing further, thank you to all councillors and our corporate management team here, and thank you to Noel Amery for coming here and being a part way up the back, social distancing himself. We look forward to seeing you again at the next council meeting or online. Have a great day. Thank you very much. We'll now declare the meeting closed. It's still on, Councillor Russell.
It's pretty happy,
Don't we
mate.
close it off there?
Play back